When you're ready. Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Wright County Board meeting on November 14th, 2017. We'll begin this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all. The minutes from November 7th. Anyone had a chance to look at them?
I will move the minutes from.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Delighten for the minutes. Lee, did you have anything, any additions? No?
I did not.
Corrections, I should say. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The agenda for today. The only thing, there's a typo on those, what was it?
Brian.
I'm surprised. Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to add or petition something to the agenda, just a brief item to schedule a closed session. You've I'm sure read in the newspapers that cities and counties are considering joining litigation against opioid manufacturers and distributors. We've been contacted, we meaning the county attorney's office, has been contacted by several law firms. We've taken part in some conference calls, and we have a firm from the Twin Cities who would like to make a presentation. A couple of the possibilities would be next Tuesday at 8 a.m. or possibly after the board meeting on the 28th. And I just wanted to check the board's schedule. Tom and I would be probably recommending this firm, but we'd like to allow them to make a presentation to the board.
Fine. I mean, if we're not interested in it, do we just dismiss it right now? Or because
we can certainly.
Really, I think it would be like, you know, suing whatever, the gun manufacturers because somebody uses a gun wrong. I mean, there's a good purpose for that product and a lawful purpose, and people when they abuse it.
I think since he's asking to be put on the agenda,
okay,
that would be the time to discuss it.
Okay.
Yep.
So, alrighty.
That's a good point. We are certainly not obligated in any
not put it
fashion.
even on the agenda, I guess. Yeah.
Well, but again, you don't want to be discussing it.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Go ahead. Where do you want it, Brian?
Well, the lawyer that I've been dealing with, a fellow named Dave Goodwin, indicated he was available next Tuesday at 8 if you wanted to do that.
But we would just put it on the agenda for right now.
Discuss it at that point.
And then we'll discuss
Correct.
it.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, with that addition to the agenda, I'll make a motion to adopt today's agenda.
Okay, and then Lee, where do you want to put that on?
Maybe at the end of the timed items. I'm here for the last two timed items.
Yes, I do see. Maybe we'll add it as a second item to the 9:35 a.m.
So under item E would be E2?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then you made a motion to approve the agenda with that?
Second it.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Delighten for the agenda with that one addition. Further, anything else? Nothing? All in favor of the agenda approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the consent agenda for today. Does anyone have anything they would like removed for further consideration?
Yeah, item D, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'd like to remove.
And then you make a motion to approve the agenda with that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with
Item D removed.
Item D removed.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Vetch. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Commissioner Delighten.
Remind me, but we're paying bills now ahead of time, aren't we? And we're just kind of getting the blessing with the board. Is it necessary to even have a claims-only meeting on that day? I'm just, you know, for staff time and all that sort of stuff, I'm just wondering if it's even necessary to do it the way we used to do it.
Well, it still is a formality that you are basically approving.
But I suppose if we did it after the first, well, I mean, if we still did that at the faster year retroactive, I'm just trying to figure out if it's, you know, if it's worth anybody's time to do this for just that purpose.
It's a good discussion, and typically what we were trying to avoid in history was that you'd have a lot of controversial items pile up in the last meeting of the year. So typically, we called it claims only. So to clarify your question, are you asking the question, do we need to do it just for the claims, or do we want to look at potentially canceling that meeting?
And then there would be a possibility that something might
Right.
come before the board too. You know,
Correct, and
We're
I-
trying to discourage it, but some department could have something that could come up.
And Mr. Chair, Coordinator Kelly, it seems like that's what happens is we have some item that needs to be taken care of before the end of the year, even though it's called claims only.
Right.
We still may have something that we need to take care of.
And I believe this year, we're going to have the bid opening for the official paper on that day, so
Okay,
needs to get done. It's typically something tends to come up. We just
Right.
try not to keep it a
exactly.
very long meeting or with controversial
But
topics.
you're putting it out to the department heads that keep it off the agenda.
Correct.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that,
Item D.
item D.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Delighten. Seconded by,
Oh, second?
Commissioner
They
Batch?
were gonna go down there. That Michael chimed in.
okay. Further discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're on to timed agenda. Mr. Greg Picard, our Veteran Service Officer, has some, looks like good news for us, huh?
Excellent news, actually. Morning, Board. A couple weeks ago, I was contacted by Chapter 37 DAV out of Hutchinson, Minnesota. In the past, they have provided to other counties a donation every year, and they expanded it to Wright County. They've had quite a few increases in their chapter from southern kind of corner there of Wright County. So they decided to include us as the first year for this. So they provided us a $2,500 donation from the DAV, which is great news. No real restrictions. They just, didn't want it to replace funding we were already getting. We can use it, basically what they told me is as I see fit or as you see fit to use it. Some of the suggestions they gave were, Christmas baskets, if there's any transportation needs that couldn't get paid for otherwise, and they have a van too. They also provide, I found out, so we have the DAV van here.
Yep.
They also use their own Hutchinson transportation for some of our Wright County vets down in that southern corner that don't want to come all the way up, contact us or whatever. But they said they have transported a few of our Wright County vets up to St. Cloud and stuff. So it's a pretty, seems like this is the first time I've met them. Seemed like a pretty robust chapter, and they do a lot of different things. So they provide donations to Meeker, McLeod, Renville, and now Wright County. So that's a big budget. And they do everything off of donations. So all this money is all coming from their donations and their efforts, and they just provide it to us so we could use
And
it.
on their transportation end, it does make sense because they're driving from, Glencoe, Hutchinson, probably right through Wright County, and they swing by and pick somebody up at,
Right, yeah.
And we got to appreciate them doing
And
that.
the biggest part of their effort, obviously, is McLeod,
Yeah.
Meeker, and stuff, and that's where their biggest membership comes from. But they have gotten an increase in Wright County membership, so that's why they decided to add us to their rolls this year for their donation.
Very nice.
Mr. Chair, Greg, as far as this money going, I see no better person to see how this money gets spent than you, where it's going to do the best good for the veterans, and that's with that, Mr. Chair. Do we need to action on this to accept this donation?
Yeah, you need to
I'll make a
accept the
motion to
donation.
accept this donation.
I'll second
And
that.
give Greg the green light to.
The green light, and he'll serve the veterans well, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and I already have some ideas of, the food baskets and stuff. That time of year is coming up anyway.
Yeah.
And we have had a couple things come up in the 10 months that since you've hired me that, there just wasn't another way to pay for. A homeless veteran, I can't get him enrolled in the VA, so VA doesn't give him benefits. The state doesn't have, so, not the whole 25, but, if he needs a shower, I can go to the the community center and get him a couple showers so he can at least stay clean if we can't find him up, things like that.
Little things.
It's a
Little
gap
things
filler
matter.
type of funds.
Okay. And
Mr. Chair, would it be nice for us to send from behalf of the board or from the VSO's office a thank you letter?
well, I was just thinking to make sure that, yeah, it's a good idea, to pass on our appreciation that the county board and the entire county appreciate the donation.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
Greg, it'd be
Commissioner.
great to find out some of the areas that, you've helped people with this money.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the
And I've been working with Lindsay already, so she's already got a charge code and stuff set up. So we're going to track it exactly
Okay.
what we're spending on, and
Yep.
so I'll have, 12 baskets here, this here, that here. So it will be tracked completely of where the actual funds go.
Good.
I think, and they didn't ask for that, but I think we owe that. If somebody gives us a donation money, we need to owe back to them, here's how we spent the money that you gave us.
Yep.
Okay. The motion was by Commissioner Potter.
And I
Correct.
seconded.
Second by Commissioner Hughes. Okay. Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Mr. Robert Hevela, Auditor Treasurer. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Board. The first item on the agenda is, during the budget process, we talked about transferring funds from the general fund due to how well we have done in the years past. We're exceeding our fund balance policy, so each year I present to you, if we're at that level, what do you want to do with it? And during the budget process, we did talk about transferring $1.9 million from the general fund to the capital projects funds, a split between CIP technology and levy stabilization. So today, Board, I'm asking for to approve that transfer.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects funds.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Vetch. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
For the next item on the agenda is where a city has taken one of our properties. I'm going to have Brian go through this with you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, actually no city involved, but this is a repurchase situation, and it's kind of an odd one at that. Any repurchase of tax forfeited property has to be approved by the county board by resolution. This one in particular, normally I bring an aerial photo. I don't know if I even have one along with me today. There's not much to see. This is a small lot on the southeast side of Lake Charlotte, which is divided up into 1/100th interests. When the subdivision Oak Ridge View was platted, there's a number of lots that have very steep shoreline. And so the person who platted it maintained this lot as an access lot where people could put their boats in and then, drive them to their dock on their, adjacent to their property. When the Muhonans, who are named as the repurchasers here, sold their property to another party, they failed to include this 1/100th interest in Lot 15. And for whatever reason, it was initially set up that the auditor's office sends out a tax statement for this 1/100th interest with a separate parcel ID number assigned to it. The taxes were $2 a year. The Muhonans stopped paying the taxes after they moved away. They are repurchasing and will be deeding this property, this 1/100th interest, back to the party that they sold the remainder of their property out in that area to. And so they have already deposited with Bob's office the entire repurchase amount. It was with fees. There's a $100 repurchase fee. With fees, it ended up being $294.34, and so Bob's office already has that in hand. Questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There's no way that we can tie it to the existing, because the way it's set up is 1/110th.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner
1/100th.
Delighten, we can combine properties on tax statements at the request of the taxpayer. We can't force them to do it, so it would have to be a mailing effort, I guess, to try and piece together all of these. Now, there's one owner that has the owner of the property the owner of the property that used to belong to the person who eventually originally platted this area has something like 39/100ths of the interest in this lot. And it's quite a mess. I mean, we've heard from several people during and since this 1/100th went tax forfeit. So I haven't figured out quite the best way to try and take care of that, but there may be a way to do it.
I would strongly urge us to be able to do that.
Right.
I mean, it may be a little effort up front, but I think it'll save a lot of effort in the back.
I understand.
And
I know
Mr.
Lindsay has, always looking for something to do, but, she probably would forego with this one.
More in Tammy Vaith's area.
Tammy? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Chair, is it more of an educational piece for the taxpayer that they just don't understand that they can do it? Maybe, is that more the aspect of it, that they can combine it, and maybe that's the approach that we have to go?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, yeah, that may be the case. I mean, the statute is kind of obscure, and we do have people who come in and say, hey, why am I getting 3 tax statements? And then we tell them, yeah, you have a right to, in fact, Bob's office has a 1-page form that people sign, and then we put them all on one tax statement. It makes sense.
We'll have Tammy follow up on it, so.
I would think that it would save you time in the long run.
Okay, Commissioner Houston.
Yeah, so do they own the property adjoining this property for their, no. So, yeah, that's what's, it would be nice if maybe they could just make this a public access or whatever.
Another lid.
Would that be, yeah, more?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hewson, yeah, I don't know if that's possible. There's I'm sure they don't want public access on the lake. I don't know if
public, but I mean just
Charlotte has a
access for
public access.
Yeah, Charlotte does have a public
Do they?
access.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the repurchase of the PID 215-035-000-153.
I'll second it.
Okay,
With the
well,
caveat that the auditor's office and attorneys try and figure out a way to
Clean it up?
clean it up, make
Okay.
life simpler in the long run.
okay, motion by Commissioner Potter. We'll give Commissioner Delight the second on that. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, since it's a resolution, I just need a roll call
Oh,
vote.
okay. We'll start off with Commissioner Delight.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Resolution
Thank you.
carries. Okay, next up,
The board, the next item on the agenda is a continuation from the Technology Committee. This is a contract that I had brought before you. This is with OpenGov. This is for the dashboard module and the interfacing module. I know that the IT department is currently working with OpenGov to perfect that integration. So what I'm presenting to you is the 2-year contract. This would now put us on par with our reports and analysis contract that we have with them.
Mr. Chair?
yes, go ahead, Commissioner Vetch.
At this point, if we were tied into the 2 years with agreeing to this, right? If we decide after year 1, we don't find enough interest in it, is there ins and outs to it, or we have to fulfill the whole 2-year contract?
Or we'd have to fulfill the 2-year contract. We do have the reports and analysis, the bigger module of it. This first year of dashboarding, I think, is going to be a learning curve. We're going to try to educate the departments and you guys on how to use it. So, first year may not be the fullest extent, but I believe after 2 years, we will have fully vetted whether or not this was the product.
Okay. And the other side of it, so this has the reports module, the dashboard module, the only module piece that we don't have to basically have the whole suite of is the budgeting piece then, correct?
The budget module is a third piece. They're currently developing a story mode, which basically takes everything and blends it in with a Word formatting, like a WordPress type thing.
Yeah, it's not ready yet.
Right. But yes, we did not acquire the budgeting module.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the contract addendum with OpenGov for dashboards.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch,
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Hewson. Discussion? Seeing none, I think we talked about it before, I guess, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
The board, I should have said that I'll just sign the contract with them. I did with the Open Gov right away.
All right. You have a tobacco license up now?
Yes, this is a new license. So all new licenses come before you. Renewals go on the consent agenda. We have the proper signatures and the proper fees. This is for City of Maple Lake gas station there.
Mr. Chair, I'll make an approval for the transfer of tobacco license from DHT, in the city,
Two.
to DHT, in the City of Maple Lake.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Vitz, second by Commissioner Delighten. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimous. Next up, Bob, number 5.
Yeah, next up is approving the October guidelines. Board, I'm still awaiting a dongle so I can hook up my computer to this overhead thing, but as a snapshot, you can see that we're pretty consistent with the 2016 and 17. Outside of what I've already drawn your attention to is our boarding of prisoners and other revenues like that, there's nothing really for me to draw your attention to.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Delighten.
On page 57 of the report, it was road and bridge. And I'm just a little confused the way it's set up here with the negatives and all that sort of stuff. And that we're quite a bit under budget. But then and then on page 55, we're way over budget on unallocated non-highway. And I wasn't sure if we just haven't showed the revenues from the state or federal or something, or what was going on.
Board, I don't have that report in front of me. Can I see one of your reports?
So you can have it. So 57 under, but then here it's way over. So I'm not quite sure.
Let's take it up here.
That's fine, that's fine. I just, since these still get put on the county website after these are approved, right? I just wanted to try and get it clarified so that if I get a question, I know how to answer it.
So board, what it is we've gotten a lot of our allotment for the state aid regular maintenance and municipal maintenance. And then the expenses of it, I mean, that's why we are I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look into this one as to why we're so far over on the
Virgil, would you have an idea at all?
Sorry, what was the question?
On why it is so, on the unallocated highway, and why it's so far over?
Well, board, for example, gravel tax right now, 100% of our receipts are being put into that line item, but in December, we allocated out to the townships. So right now, that's running above, a budget of $70,000, it's got $131,000 in revenue. You'll notice, board, that under the 17 budget, we did move property taxes out to the various departments, but the actual is still sitting here, so we didn't move the actual. So I think that has a lot to do with why the actual is so far above budget. If you'll, well, I'm sorry, I took your budget book, but 03-380, 000, 5001 is property tax. Right now, we don't have a budget for it because we allocated it up to the the various departments. But yeah, we're still sitting with $4,775,000 in there. So my guess is we didn't move one of the settlements. So
I just want to make sure it gets straightened out then before it gets posted to the county website.
right, that is a very good catch. But I think that's really what it is due to the property taxes, the budget being moved out, so the budget is lower. The actual still sitting in there, so yeah, it looks like we're doing really well, the budget.
Do we blame Lindsay then, or somebody else?
We'll blame Bob.
Oh, we'll blame Bob, okay.
Okay. Any other,
I'll make a motion to approve it, as long as it gets corrected before it gets on the county website.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Delight, second by Commissioner Hewsom. Further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And then,
Word. The last item on the agenda, this is one that's taken us a while to get through. This is something we're going to go over on Wednesday's Committee of the Whole. This is moving forward with our county-wide credit card company. We have chosen Paymentus as our provider for credit card acceptance. So in front of you is a contract. It's a service agreement with Paymentus. And on Wednesday, we'll walk you through how did we get to this point and where do we go from here.
How many years is this contract?
Is it 5 year? Brian's whispering. I think it's 5-year contract.
Mr. Chair, is it right for us to make this, is it important that we make this decision prior to having our committee of the whole and discussing out and being able to like, kind of discuss where we are? I feel like this is kind of like the cart before the horse, kind of.
Well, Board, I mean, you did task me with vetting out which is the proper credit card company. I would hate to delay this any further because our goal is January 1st to start accepting credit cards.
Sure, sure. And what I looked at here from the details, I just had some questions when we got to the committee of the whole, but we did task you with that, so I.
As a precursor to that committee of the whole, there we're going to talk about the credit card acceptance policy.
Okay.
When do we accept credit card fees? When do we pass them on?
so Bob, is this going to take over for Human Services and for Parks as well?
This is the provider behind the exchange of those. This is not replacing WebAR, and this is not replacing Max Galaxy. But this is giving Mike's office some heavy tools for accepting credit cards.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Delight.
This is a little different than what I'm used to. Normally they'll have a per transaction or a swipe fee. I don't see that listed on these at all anywhere.
Right. Commissioner Delight, this is the government contract where basically we're going to pay, when we absorb the credit cards, we're just going to pay a flat 2.35%, not per swipe, not per transaction. When we do elect to pass it on, there will be a minimum charge. So basically, anything under $42 will be assessed $1. So,
does the state have a contract for credit card processing at all?
no.
They don't,
Right.
with nobody, okay.
It just seems like that's a really high percentage. And then you'd think as a government, you would be able to get a better deal because we're doing a lot of volume, but.
Well,
It's not very
commissioners of the companies we looked at, one was 235, one was 250. Right now, U.S. Bank is 2.25. But again, they preempt the fact that we bank with them. With this solution, I'm going to be able to deposit those funds wherever, and the Magic Fund is right now letting it out. They're paying the best.
So if somebody wants to pay their $30,000 property tax via a credit card or check card, they'll have to do it in 2 swipes then, based on this.
Based on that's a clarification that I know I had with him, because we do have some taxpayers that have hefty tax bills. I'm getting clarification on that. My option is not to, my preference is not to have them swipe a card 3-4 times for one transaction. So,
That was one of my concerns, yeah.
Hopefully they'll bring a check in.
Yeah, my only concern is that this is for a 5-year.
It's a long time, too.
And it's also automatically renews, so, in 3-year increments afterwards, so you have to ask out
How far?
Or that
Yeah.
6 months.
6 months, yeah, see.
in writing.
Mr. Chair, if I can address that. As we start to deploy integrations, I don't think we really want to be switching out our providers all that often.
No, but we want to be able to leverage.
Be price competitive as far as the fees go, because especially when we're passing them on.
Right.
Yeah, and then even the ones that we can't pass on.
Yeah,
So Bob, let's say somebody has a class that they attend at the probation or whatever court services, and it's $100. What will it actually cost them?
2.35%.
Okay.
$2.35.
What is the $3.95 per transaction? It says Visa, MasterCard, debit.
Yeah, if you're using your debit card,
Then there's an extra transaction.
well, that's in lieu of it, so,
Oh, I see. So then you wouldn't have the 2.35.
right, you flat. So if you have a $5,000 tax bill and you use a debit card, it's going to be $3.95.
Really? But the other way would be 2.35%,
Right.
which is a whole lot more.
Our current
Okay.
experience with US Bank, where we do accept debit cards and credit cards, we're finding that the mix of people using debit cards is going up. So,
Mr. Chair, you don't feel concerned at all that some of these, maximum amounts per transactions, that if you agree to a term with Paymentus, that you're going to be able to overcome those caveats?
well, Board, I mean, if you want to table this to a next meeting, we can tell them that, hey, we're about to prove this, but we have issue with you setting maximums on this.
So how many people would be using credit cards to pay more than $15,000?
A lot of people, they look at the frequent flyer miles they get on their card versus the 2%. There's quite a bit of people, if it was easy accessible, that would do it. I mean,
Well, right now they can do it.
Right. Board, do you want to just table this and I'll work with the vendor to say, hey, we need to address those maximums?
No, I'll make a motion to approve it. I want to get it moving. It's been 5 years in the making.
no, I agree. I just wanted to at least put those out there that hopefully they'll at least look at them and work with us on it. That's my biggest thing, is that we're really close here. It's just some small little things that I think
And I think if
they
they
can meet
will-
us in the middle.
Yeah, he doesn't have to sign it until it's approved anyway. Till
I'll
he gets
second
what
it.
he wants out of it.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by
Oh,
Commissioner
Commissioner, or
Deloitte,
Mr. Chair, if I can.
second by Commissioner.
You're authorizing me to sign it once we're satisfied.
Yep.
I don't need to bring it back to you.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Bob. Next up, Mr. Virgil Hawkins, our highway engineer. Good morning, Virgil.
Mr.
Morning, Chairman Burrell and Board of Commissioners.
1 second, Virgil.
Sure.
Don't we have a public hearing
That's 11, isn't it?
at 9? No,
Oh,
that tobacco ordinance, that wasn't a public hearing, was it?
We already
Oh,
had
that-
that.
We don't have to, from what I'm told, we don't have to, it's just a notification that we're going to be
Oh, okay,
changing. It's not
okay.
a public hearing we have to time.
All right.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure. I thought for some reason I had in my mind we had a public hearing.
Typically, they
9:30.
would be for,
Mr. Chair, is that regarding JD 15
at 11,
No, that's 11.
at 11 o'clock?
at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, no, it was something at 9:30.
Right, it's-
Proposed
it's-
amendments to
yeah.
the tobacco ordinance.
Yeah.
So,
It
I
was just, it's
confused.
just on the agenda at 9.
Yeah, for some reason, because it was at 9:30, for some reason I thought it was a public hearing. Okay, sorry.
My apologies, I'm not moving things along good enough. Let's get to it, Virgil.
Okay, we'll move things right along. So today I have 6 items for your consideration. The first 3 items involve resolutions of support for what's called the LRIP program, Local Road Improvement Program. And for some background on that, it's out of the 2017 legislature. MnDOT, or the state, provided $25 million in funding for local road projects to be applied for. There's a solicitation now. It includes counties, cities, townships. And for cities and townships, cities under 5,000 and townships, they're required to have a county sponsor. And so we're willing to do that. And the first resolution is for support of a City of Annandale application. And This program, there's several different criteria for regional significance, 10-ton route, farm to market, rural road safety, and what I've heard so far as of Friday, there's been applications totaling $105 million so far for the $25 million that's available, so it's very competitive. But the first item is for the county by resolution to support the City of Annandale's application for LRIP funding.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delight, second by Commissioner Potter, and this is a resolution. We'll start with Commissioner Vetch.
Aye.
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 Okay, resolution carries. Next up, Virgil.
Thank you. The second item is to adopt a resolution of support for an LRIP application to Wright County. And this is one we applied for our own project, our Highway 18 project that could supplement funding for our sales tax project on Highway 18 in St. Michael.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution, CASA 18.
Give that.
Second that.
Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Further discussion? It says a resolution as well. Start off with Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
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 Okay, resolution carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Next up.
The third item is a resolution of support for a LRIP program application that Clearwater Township and Silver Creek Township have combined to apply for.
I'll make a motion for that item.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Another resolution. Commissioner Hewsome, would you start?
Aye.
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 Resolution carries. Next up.
Okay, the fourth item today is to approve Wright County right-of-way plat number 72, which is for our Highway 38 project from Odine Avenue to 101. And we're currently in the process of meeting with folks on right-of-way acquisition, and approving the plat would allow the right-of-way acquisition to move forward.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner
Second.
Hewsome, second by Commissioner Potter. And this is just a regular vote, Lee? Okay.
Yes.
Further discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We're just swapping with Benton County, our local, for federal.
That's the next item.
That's the next one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You flipped the page too quick.
Yep. I thought they were both.
You okay?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Now number
I
5.
got confused because they both said County Road 38.
Oh, sure. And the right-of-way plats, the originals are in the board, Commissioner's boardroom in back for signature, and there's 2 copies that need to be signed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The next item, number 5, is to approve an agency agreement with MnDOT to exchange federal funds for state aid funds. And this is a program MnDOT's had for several years now, a federal exchange program, and it's to streamline. It's a good thing so there's less federal projects that they have to process. In this case, Benton County is going to give us $600,000 of their federal money for our 38 project, and we'll in turn give them $600,000 of our state aid funding. So then there'll be one less federal project for MnDOT to process. There's a resolution with this also.
This is a resolution as well. Okay. We'll have to have it introduced.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Potter. I'll start off. Is there further discussion, first of all? Seeing none, I vote aye.
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 Resolution carries.
Okay, thank you. The last item today for your consideration is an agreement and a resolution with MnDOT for the new traffic control signal that MnDOT built in Clearwater. It's on Trunk Highway 24 in Arkansas 75. So this just is the agreement that we would pay our share for that signal system.
And if we don't, they'll pick up the whole amount, right?
Yeah.
No,
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution agreement with MnDOT.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Potter. Further discussion? This is also a resolution. Commissioner Delighten.
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution carries unanimous. Okay.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then Brian, you're going to take item D there?
Correct, if that's the tobacco ordinance amendments. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we scheduled this time to consider these amendments a while back. The statute requires that we give at least 30 days notice to our licensed tobacco retailers. There are 5 changes proposed here. They're fairly administrative in nature, I guess I would say. We did remove the requirement, or the suggested requirement, that clerks have to be age 18 to sell tobacco. That was considered at, I believe, the Ways and Means Committee, and is not included in this draft of amendments. So in the term section at the top of the page, basically the only change is that we allow for seasonal tobacco licenses. We do have some golf courses and resorts, things like that, that have a license that covers less than a full year. Under renewals, we're striking a sentence simply recognizing the fact that this is not how things work in reality. Jackie in Bob's office, Jackie Schmidt, is very efficient and sends these renewal notices out by usually the end of October for the coming year. And so it's not a request from the retailer so much as us prodding them to renew their license. Under fees, a couple of changes. We're recognizing the fact that fees can be prorated for these seasonal licenses, and we're striking the last portion of that section, basically doing away with a 30-day grace period. In other words, retailers used to be able to renew, if they renewed by January 31st, they paid the regular fee. If they renewed after that date, they paid a double fee. We're now doing away with that, again recognizing the fact that we give them plenty of time to renew their license, and if they are late, this is to encourage them to renew by the end of December for the coming year. And finally, under the penalty provision that goes on to the second page, we're adding language that would allow you, the board, to revoke or suspend a tobacco license for violations of federal or state law in addition to this ordinance. That might include such things as failure to pay state taxes, things like that. And it really just, it's suggested language that Anna from Public Health came up with from a conference that she had attended, I think, and I don't foresee us using it, but it does put one more tool in the toolbox if we had someone who was a retailer that was continually violating some federal or state law.
Okay, and I know Commissioner Hewsome and I, we dealt pretty heavily with this, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm happy with it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
make a motion to approve the tobacco ordinance update, revised.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Delyden. Discussion from the board? Anything else? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Brian, thank you for your work on that.
Thank you. Next up is the proposed order to establish a Maple Lake Improvement District. And as you will all recall, you were here on October 23rd, I believe it was, for a public hearing that was well attended. What you have in your packet is a proposed order to establish Maple Lake Improvement District. In the past, the county board has basically adopted this as a resolution, so if you are in favor, I'd be calling for a roll call vote. However, the LID statutes talk of it in terms of an order, so that's why we have the title at the top. I would note that we've tried to incorporate the things that the statute calls for. That would be that this board names the first board of directors for the Lake Improvement District, and those people serve until that first annual meeting, which would be sometime in July or August of next year. I would also note that this board gives certain powers to a Lake Improvement District, and we've tried to incorporate basically the same powers that that this county board has given in the past to other lake improvement districts that are already established. So if you have questions about any of those items, I'd be happy to try and address them.
Go ahead, Board. Commissioner Delighten.
Is it possible that those that are on the lid will also be able to be on the board of the Lake Association? There's no problem with that at all?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten, I guess I'm not aware of any restriction in law that would prevent them from serving on both, but I think you may recall hearing from Tom Larson, who was here from the Lake Charlotte area, and he indicated they found it valuable or good to have separate boards, if you will.
Now, does this have to be approved by DNR after the county board approves it?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten, it does not. We notify Commissioner of Natural Resources, MPCA, and the Secretary of State once we've done this, but there's really no final approval by the state.
Mr. Chair, Brian, what is the process for applicants for us to appoint? Are we going to receive, are we going to put out a notice that we're looking for applicants for?
They have kind of a slate that
I see that slate, but we're going to offer it to other people, or is it just historically we just adopt who they recommend?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, that is a possibility. I mean, the statutes really don't speak to it, and so in the past, and again, when I say in the past, most of the lake improvement districts, or 3 of them, were formed back in either the 80s or 90s. The most recent one was Make Summers, and in that instance, the county board just adopted the slate of directors willing to serve that had been forwarded to us by the organizers of the effort, and that's, I think, what's happening here.
And Commissioner Vetch, I would yield to, it's in your district, or is it in yours?
It's in Derek's.
What's that?
Derek's district.
Derek's. I would yield to you. If you had somebody else that you wanted to put on, you would have the green light with me, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I was just curious on what the process was of it, and are those members adopted at a separate time, or are they adopted right now here when we move forward with this lid? Are we adopting those board members?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, we would, as a part of this order, be basically appointing them as the initial directors. I would note that if you look at the very last paragraph on the 3rd page, I'm making this order effective January 1st. The reason for that is we have to allow for at least 30 days for this reverse referendum, if you will, if there were people who petitioned to not establish, to have a referendum, an actual vote on whether to establish an LID. They have 30 days to do that. So the order is stayed in any event, and then it's effective upon publication. I wasn't exactly sure when this order would be published along with the minutes from this meeting, so it just was easier to set a date. So in other words, I'm answering that kind of in response to Commissioner Vetch, that these directors would be in place as of January 1st of next year.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, I believe when they have your annual meeting, and perhaps the lake improvement people can verify this, but generally then they would have the elections, and if there was someone that came forward, and I know other lake improvement districts, seems like they're in August, but I think there's some like associations that have, well, June, July, or August meetings, but the lake improvement district that is in my district, they have their annual meeting. It's always set the same whatever, day in August, second Tuesday or whatever it is, so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hewsome, the statute actually says the first one has to be in July or August, but they can set a different date. If they wanted to have their meeting in January, which might not make sense with snowbirds, but they could do that, but that would have to be a change made at their annual meeting, so at their first annual meting or some subsequent annual meeting.
And I don't know if Commissioner Vetch, if you wanted, it wouldn't hurt to delay this for a week if you wanted.
I was fine with it. I had some people that had questioned what that process was, and I wanted to make sure on record that they understood that these people that are first appointed were only going to serve for roughly 9 months at the longest, and then at that point there will be a true election to true board members. They wanted to know that was for the record. I want to make sure that that was clear for everybody. And Brian, I appreciate you making that change to Article 6, Section Item C, to making that clear that everybody understands that it is going to be done as a service charge, and it would be a different process if they wanted to go and change it to an ad valorem.
That's a good point, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Vetch, if the board, and the discussion with the Maple Lake folks has always been kind of dividing their budget up equally among the property owners, and not having an ad valorem tax. If they wanted to do an ad valorem tax, they'd have to come back to this board in the future and get the okay to do that.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion to establish a Maple Lake Improvement District.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Delight, and further discussion. Did anyone have any input from the public at all on this? Okay.
No, there's a lot of work that went into
And
it.
Brian, this is a resolution too, or?
I would like it as a resolution, please. Yes.
Okay, we'll do that, and we'll start with Commissioner Delight.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right,
Thank you.
resolution is carried. You have another matter.
And the last item I had petitioned on the board agenda was to schedule a closed session to discuss possible litigation against opioid manufacturers and distributors. There are a number of cases that we've been made aware of in other states. I'm not sure whether any have actually been filed on behalf of Minnesota counties, but Tom Kelly and I took part in a conference call last week with probably at least 15 other county attorneys' offices. It was organized by the Minnesota County Attorneys Association. And prior to that, Tom and I had been also contacted by a number of law firms. We have asked the questions that we felt were appropriate and to try and decide whether this was something that the county should even jump on board with. The cases that are out there are being filed individually. In other words, it's not a class action, but they're very similar, and there's in fact a motion hearing somewhere out east on the 28th or 30th of this month to possibly make this what they call multi-district litigation, meaning they would, even though they're filed in different states in federal court, they would combine them for hearing with one or two judges, probably somewhere else. The proposals that we've received have all been in the nature of contingent litigation, which means that we would not have to expend any dollars. We would not pay any legal fees unless we recover damages. The upfront costs, like for flying attorneys around for depositions, things like that, would come out of, those costs would come out of the recovery along with attorney's fees. There's more particulars, but Tom and I have gotten to the point where we feel comfortable with at least one local firm that has associated with some other firms nationwide, and that one of the attorneys from that firm is able to come out on either the 21st or I think on the 28th. I know he said he was available that early morning of the 21st. And again, in answer to Chairperson Burrell's question, we're not obligated in any way. Tom and I have had some question in our mind, how much has this impacted us? And this is one of those situations where we really don't know at this point. We believe there have been impacts through programs like child protection, where children have had to be placed in foster care because of parents using opioids. We have had some overdoses. We haven't contacted the medical examiner to try and get that number, and we're not sure of the exact time period that litigation like this would cover, but we just simply wanted to explore the options and make that presentation to you, or allow them to make that presentation to you.
Brian, it's going to be up to the board whether they want to have a committee of the whole. I personally would say we don't need it because it's just bad precedent, totally. I wouldn't even want to be a part of it. I would never vote for it. Then Shell's Brewery or a beer maker or an alcohol maker that's selling a legal product is going to be liable for somebody abusing their product.
Well, it might be a little bit different situation. I think we should at least listen to
I would,
some of it.
Mr. Chair, I would really be interested in exploring the whole thing, so we know what we're talking about.
You might be surprised on some of this stuff.
So unless they were doing something illegal and making it so people could steal their product off the back dock or something.
Well, it sounds like one of the things that I heard that intrigued me was that one of the communities had, at the pharmacy, had more opioids, or had enough opioids for every person that they take care of or provide drugs for, or medicine for, was to have 1,000 pills per person. I mean, it was really stupid.
I've read similar things, and that's why I think
that's why I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, it's a bigger issue. It's not just that a pharmacy has some prescriptions. There's other things going on. I think we need to find out about them.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set a closed session to discuss the possible litigation for opioids.
I'll second it, but I'd like to do it on the 28th. That's possible? Because you said that was a date.
If Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten, if we did, let's maybe do it at the tail end of the meeting. I don't know if 10:30 or 11 would be the...
Yeah, and we have a truth and taxation hearing that night, too,
Okay.
so.
December 20th.
So are you thinking like a 1 o'clock?
Oh, November.
Are you thinking morning? Are you doing it?
Or
You're thinking morning.
You thinking like 8 o'clock before our board meeting?
I knew that Dave Goodwin was available the 21st. I'm not sure exactly on the 28th, but that day I'd probably do it after the board meeting.
I would rather.
You'd have to say 10:30 if you're going to do it after the board meeting, just because you never know the timing.
So what's the time then?
Mr. Chair, Brian, will you check to see if he's available on the 28th and tentatively set it for that?
Let's tentatively set it for that, and I can always change
What
it.
time?
10:30?
11:28 at 10:30 a.m.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to set that meeting with the attorney at 10:30 on November 28th to discuss the opioid.
So, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, I think we did have a motion.
Yeah, I think we have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Delighten already, so.
We were just discussing the actual.
But
yes.
That's okay.
We're in the discussion phase.
I must have been in deep thought about something else.
Well, we kind of
sorry.
did out of order.
Well, that firmed up the date for the
Firmed up the
motion.
date, yep.
Okay.
Okay, and as far as further discussion, I just think it's a waste of everybody's time, so I'll go, but I'm not going to support the motion.
Mr. Chair, I can tell you that Tom and I have both asked some of the same questions you have, and at this point, we don't have a good handle on, the types of damages that we might have, but we too have heard some of the theories that Commissioner Delighten referred to about perhaps some, I don't know if dirty dealing is the right word, but, questionable activities by distributors, manufacturers, things like that. And that's the type of thing that litigation can kind of ferret out through discovery. So I wouldn't say that we're 100% behind this at this point, but we wanted to allow that presentation to happen for the board.
But I mean, as far as the supply on hand, I want at least 16 kegs set aside for me, just in case.
We're talking alcohol, this is drugs, they're different.
No, they're not. You're going to really get me going today, aren't you?
Have we voted on that yet?
No,
We have not.
So further discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, aye. Motion carries 4-1.
Before he runs away,
Yeah.
can you give us an update?
I don't run anymore.
Okay, before you walk away really fast, dance away. What's going on with our illustrious state auditor? I haven't heard anything lately, and I thought that, wasn't it 30 days after or something that the courts had to make a decision?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten, that actually has not been orally argued yet.
What happened?
In fact, I'm not sure that the date's been set. The final, I think we saw the final reply brief. It's a little complicated because although the Office of State Auditor appealed the Court of Appeals decision, Becker and Wright counties, through our attorney, appealed that one finding of the lower court and the Court of Appeals that that auditing counties was a core function of the state auditor's office. So in other words, what it does is it sets up for more paperwork. There's response briefs and reply briefs, and I'm not sure that I'm even on top of whether or not they've all been filed, but we did see one cross our desk last week that was filed by Rebecca Otto's attorneys. My belief is that this will be set for oral argument sometime after the first of the year, possibly January, February, and
I couldn't remember where it was at. I was just kind of good.
And the decision would be several months out from that. So
yeah. So no, we get to enjoy this for a while longer then.
Attorneys are enjoying it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, items for consideration, designate voting delegate and alternate MCIT annual meeting.
Mr. Chair, a bit of a housekeeping item. Typically, the MCIT annual meetings at the AMC conference in the fall. In past years, the delegates have been myself and Commissioner Potter as an alternate. They are going to be voting on some amendments to their joint powers agreement language changes, so I wanted to make sure that we had this verified prior to the meeting.
Okay.
Was it last year because Potter was chair?
I don't recall that we said
no,
it as
it
being
wasn't.
chair. I think we just had volunteers.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Well,
was railroaded by 4 other henchmen.
I couldn't remember. I was thinking it was the
we
chair.
certainly appreciate our volunteers if you're willing to serve again in those roles.
Charlie, you're the chair unless you want to be the person to vote.
I'm okay with making Mike do it.
There you go.
You got to tell Mike which way to vote, though.
I will. I'll tell you which way to vote, though.
With friends like that, right?
Right.
I'll make a motion to have Commissioner Potter and County Coordinator Lee Kelly to have the votes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Hughes. Some further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Potter.
Clarification is the voting delegate would be primary, Lee Kelly, alternate being myself, just to make sure that's clear.
Is that the way we've been doing it?
That's the way it has been, yes.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Further discussion? Commissioner Hewson?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Next up, Lee.
Thank you,
We owe the
Mr.
money. We owe money now.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All our money away.
The 10-second summary is there is money owed.
I'll make a motion that a former member of River Rider Board pay for this.
Hey,
I'll let them argue it out.
we were to have that all turned over to the attorney at that point. I'm surprised that didn't come up in any of the audits.
Mr. Chair.
You know, we had, the state did an audit, the audit firm. Go ahead, Commissioner
Yeah,
Potter.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Keep in mind, I have a little history with a business that 4 years after the fact, the IRS, and they're notoriously slow. Even if they know something, they don't say nothing until it's right at the end of statute of limitations or anything like this.
More
This is
interest that-
typical for.
More interest that way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
More
it's
money from
typical
you.
for the IRS, because even though they've been notified and all this thing here, they just are slow to the table to get this, and I don't know if it's just a function that they just like doing just because they're trying to occupy time. It's frustrating because we're not the only people that deal with this. I mean, we're talking thousands of people throughout the country are dealing with the same thing all the time, that instead of telling you in a timely manner, you missed this payment. Mine was in 2010 for a 1999 third quarter. You know, it was 1 day late before they went automation, and it was the penalties and interest that just kept compounding the whole time, and we had to settle for what was close to actually owed, and I just had to write a check and get away with it, but they just like going this on. And with this, Mr. Chair, I'll just make a motion to reimburse Sherburne County in the amount of $12,769.42, and that would come out of what, the reserves? Bob, is that, where would this come out to?
Yeah, we looked at budget 100.
Budget 100.
You don't think that this, I mean, we had 200 and some $1,000 that is sitting there for this reason. You don't think that we could get some of that money back?
I guess that is a discussion point for the board. I mean,
Okay.
I guess.
Mr. Chair,
I'm open for that discussion.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I understand that we've released those funds.
Do we have a second for the motion?
No, I did not.
as available.
Not yet, so.
I'll make or I'll second the motion for discussion.
All right, so Mr. Chair, I wouldn't be opposed to getting some of that money, but I would do it through future funds. I wouldn't ask for money back from what we've already given
No.
WCAT. I'd be willing for the 100,000 that we've kind of promised it going to next year to lower that number by the amount that we have to pay back in taxes amount. So that 100,000 in capital improvements, subtracting it from that money. I think WCAT would be okay with that, understanding that we had unforeseen expenses, and I don't foresee, it's right at this point to ask for that money back that we already allocated over there.
And Mr. Chair.
You're okay with that, Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to add to this. I did inform Vice Chair Mayor Castle that this came before, and we had a good laugh on this one as a, what's next, you know? But they're aware of this dollar amount that was there, and I agree with Commissioner Vetch. It's just Sherburne County already paid the bill. We should, in a timely manner, pay them back, and then we just deal with how we're going to deal with it later.
Going forward.
To keep it as clean as possible, and just, you know, it happened.
I agree with that. I mean, it's, you know, a mistake was made, so 3 years ago, they find it, which is very frustrating, you know, and, I mean, that's a huge dollar amount. You know, I don't know how that happened, but anyway, it happened, and now we need to move on, so.
So you're okay, though, Commissioner Potter, with, you want to make an amendment to the motion for that?
I mean, if you guys want to state it now, I mean, I'll state it now.
I would
We can
rather-
take it, if you wanted to know where we're going to make up that money, I will make that statement, but, I mean, if you want to just play it out down the road, we can do that too.
Are you okay with that as
Well,
a
Mr.
friendly
Chair, what
amendment?
I would like to do is have the Commissioner Vetch and myself, when we go to the next WCAT meeting, have this talk with them, and then proceed from there, and see which way we want to go with this.
But, I mean, we're asking them about our money. It's our money already. Just say we're going to reduce it by this amount.
We can reduce that 100,000, that's still our money. We aren't committed to anything on that at this point.
Correct,
We'd
but this
have
time-
to get WCAT's approval to get the money back. That one I.
No, we're not, that's not what you were recommending.
No, my
You just-
recommendation would be to.
lower the 100,000.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
To get back to this, I would rather have the discussion with WCAT and tell them the options that Commissioner Vetch had proposed and this and that, and let them know what our thought process is before we actually take the action, just as a courtesy, just to.
And that's fair enough. I think we can release that money from reserves to pay Sherburne County right now.
Right now.
We can come back
Yep.
in a month after we meet with WCAT next week, and come back in 2 weeks, and we can report back on where that funds are going to be made up.
Got to get paid, so.
Yeah.
All right. Further discussion?
So you guys don't like my idea, having a former River Rider board member pay?
Well, you know, that'd be an interesting one. We can send the invoice and see if they pay it, right?
I don't think Pat's going to go with that.
I assume that motion died for lack of a second.
Oh, okay, I wasn't.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
I-
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Commissioner Potter.
In the interest of time, and a memo that was pretty, I will not report that I was in union negotiations with there. I will not relay that I was in Transportation Alliance annual meeting and appointed to the board. And I will not tell you that I was at a listening session for mowing and haying or a 94 report or the greater MSP annual meeting last night. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, I would just like to commend the TURN, the Wright County Adult Drug Court Program, and they have just celebrated their 1-year anniversary on the 3rd of November. They've served a total of 15 Wright County residents, and the majority of these individuals have been very successful. They've maintained sobriety, one for over a year, and their first participant has over 1 year of sobriety. And it's a very intense program. They are monitored constantly, and they're people who are at high risk of reoffending. So this has just been a great program for them. The cost is very cost effective because they're not, you know, continually coming back through the through the system and getting sentenced, getting out, going back in again. They conducted an average of 52 home visits, 100 drug tests, and 52 court appearances with each participant. So it's very intense. So anyway, they have this drug court on Thursday afternoons at 1:30. So if anyone's interested in stopping in, I've only attended one, and it was like, you know, if you kind of celebrate with people that have had a great week, and there might have been one or two that had a little bit of a, you know, setback, and
You know, I think they sent us an email, all of us an email regarding that.
about their, yeah, their little reception.
About their,
So,
yep.
yeah, so if you get a chance to go, it's pretty, it's educational and eye-opening.
Where is it at? Where is it held
Up
at?
in courtroom 1, I think, normally. Does it say on here?
Look in your email.
Yeah, courtroom 1. Yep.
I was doing that for the public.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
For the public, courtroom 1.
Anything else, Chris?
Nope.
Okay, and we had soil water meeting last night, soil water board, and talked about a lot of things, but one of them, we had a tour, and a lot of the county commissioners weren't able to do it, so we're looking at a different time of the year. So the reason we chose the fall was to have some of the crops off to show some of the structures that they put in to stop erosion. But we're thinking maybe in early June would also be maybe a less busy time for the board, where we'd be able to get some people out to kind of show some of the projects. And it was really a good tour that we had, but that's when we'd like to get more people. And then we're even going to maybe open it up to some of the farm groups and different other people, so that we can go out and see what some of the projects they're doing. There's a lot of really good work they're doing. So
We just
Let us
need
know.
more than a week notice.
I was going to say, let us know a little more.
Especially for almost a whole day
Yeah.
type.
I'll try to do that. I was sure I sent an email earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Might not
You're
have got
talking to
it.
the wrong.
No, I don't. You probably forgot to hit send.
I did.
Still in your sandbox, in your drafts.
Drafts, there you go. Okay, Commissioner Delighten.
Last week, Thursday, I was with Bob and a bunch of department heads and regarding the OpenGov, and that a little bit of learning center. That was very interesting. It has a lot of capabilities, so I'm looking forward to seeing it being utilized. If it isn't utilized, then I'm with Commissioner Vetch and we get rid of it. But it has a lot of capabilities, both in financial and non-financial things, to make it easier for people to utilize. So we'll have to see about that. Parks Board met last night regarding the different things that are going on. I left them all my stuff in my car. But at the Nature Center, there's a number of winter activities going on there. I'd urge anybody that's interested to look on the parks website. And also, if you like the idea of dog sledding, in January, there's 2 different dates, 2 different times. That fills up the fastest. So if you're really interested in that, for the youngsters, and I guess they love the dogs, and I guess these dogs are very friendly dogs, and not like the ones that in those the Iditarod races or whatever, so they're all good for that. Other than that, a few other things that came before us that you guys will be hearing more about in the future.
And thank you, Commissioner Vetch.
First of all, I'll thank you guys for doing without me last week.
yeah.
Well, I spent some time with my family, which
That was our
very fun.
pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's it out loud.
Prior to that, on Monday, October 30th, we had our last Finance Committee meeting for Central Minnesota Mental Health. We approved a conservative budget for 2018. I think Dr. Lee's got himself in a good position there to see us depart, and he'll be we'll be meeting on November 27th. That Monday, we'll have a kind of a celebration and a very short board meeting, kind of a meet and greet for the replacement board members, as county commissioners on that board that have made it up to now being more privates, or just regular chosen citizens that apply for it. We'll be making that transition. So,
Yeah,
exciting news.
Be
but it'll
different after all these years as.
So, next year, the county won't have to provide any funding at all?
Nope.
Well, we haven't been providing funding.
Well, we do.
I thought there was a small amount.
A small amount,
Small
yeah,
amount.
you're right.
Yeah.
It's like 15,000 or something. It was,
like that.
it was,
But
yeah.
every little bit helps.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
Other than our, what we utilize them for, which we pay, but a lot of that's pass-through dollars.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that will be a big change then, since that board will be dissolved, and they've got most of their spots filled at this point. I think they have a few left that they're working on getting going through the interviewing process for new board members.
Mr. Chair?
That's
Regarding that, Lee, did we pull that out of our budget for 2018? Do you know?
I'd have to go back and confirm.
We may want to look at that and pull
Yeah.
that if.
I don't recall that it was in there.
I can't,
I think does it go through Health and Human Services?
It is health.
That's my recollection. It
I
went
can't,
through
I
their
can't
budgets.
remember, so I'm just thinking that if it somehow got missed and got left in there, we should pull that
Sure.
before next week for truth and, or 2 weeks, truth and taxation.
2 weeks would be truth and taxation.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yep. Good. That's all I have. Other than that,
Well, other than your vacation?
other than my vacation, yes.
Bob, did you have something else?
Yeah, before you adjourn.
Yeah.
On the OpenGov, we were silent on the funding source for that, like I did with Nate's, the Gerard solution. I can just go over budget on the professional services and capital equipment. I'll have the wherewithal in the total budget. So if you'd approve the funding sources, professional services in the auditor's office.
Wherever deem best within your budget to allocate it.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything from the public that they'd like to come forward? Ed, you had something? All right, Lee, anything else?
Nope.
We have a meeting at 1:30 today for...
Got one at 11.
11 also?
Yeah.
What's one at 11?
Ditch 15.
Oh, okay.
How could you forget
Yeah,
that?
judicial
Not all of
ditch
us.
15.
Oh, because of you that we're dealing with
I was
that.
just at the Ditch 15 meeting.
But now you're officially, you, me, and McCall are accepting it.
Got it. Sounds good. Okay, so we have that at 11, and then 1:30, we have a space study. And
Yep.
extension this afternoon. So anyway, we are adjourned at 10:17.